Okay, so next step is to put this declination axis back together again. I've already went in and cleaned all the old greases and the dirts away. So including the gear, the bearing and the shim and the parts and the mating surface over here. So what I'm going to do next is to apply a little bit new grease before I put it back together, starting from the inside surface where it's actually probably easier to put it on this instead. So let's take a clean cotton bud, apply a little bit of grease quite liberally, just spread it out with a cotton bud. There is a bearing on this side as well, so be careful not to drop it on the floor. The bearing just came off. Doesn't matter, I can take care of that later. I'm gonna put the gear back on table. Pop this bearing back in. Then, starting with the housing, put that first in there, then the gear, the next thing to put in there is the shim. Before I do so, I'll put a little bit of new grease on the bearing. Shim back in. Now we'll put some grease on this side as well, on the shim. Next we need to pop the other bearing back in place. Probably a good idea to put some grease on the shaft where the bearing will go as well. So that's the bearing in. Before I put this whole assembly back into the mount, I will grease the worm and the gear using this same cotton bud. Turn this around so it's easier for you to see. That should be enough. The grease will start spreading around when you actually start using the mount, so it's not exact rocket science at this point. And before I pop this back in, I will clean the rest of the shaft. Alright, I will change the camera angle and pop this back into the mount. Okay, so I've positioned my mount so that the side where the declination axis is going to go through is on the top, and the hole where the belt, the new timing belt that we put in there is going to go through this hole. Before I put the assembly back in, I'm going to apply just a little bit of grease on these surfaces here. And the other thing is to put some grease on the inside surface as well. Because that's where the bearing is going to go. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's probably a better idea to actually turn this back into the 90-degree position, because this whole assembly is now very loose. So nothing is held in place with anything. So I'm going to actually turn this mount like that. Before popping the declination axis back in place, I'm going to actually clean this side as well. And put a little bit of new grease here as well. Okay. Now we're going to have to be a bit careful with the declination axis assembly. Like I said before, it's not held together with anything at the moment. And here you need to be careful with the belt and make sure that it's going through the hole. There we go. So all the way through. And once again, we're going to have to replace these housing bolts only finger tight, because we're going to have to adjust the worm gear. So I've got my bolts. I'm gonna have to pause the video because I don't know where my Allen key is. Just a second. Alright, here we go again. This needs to be movable. That's where you adjust the grip on the worm gear. Okay, so next we need to take care of the other end of the declination axis, and the first thing to do is to put back this tapered bearing, and then we can put back the cap with the counterweight shaft. So let's put the bearing back in. And screw this onto the threads. And just like with the RA axis, the idea here is to tighten this up only enough that it removes any play on the declination axis. If you tighten it too much, it will cause the axis not to rotate freely anymore. So take your time with this and make sure that it's rotating freely. looks alright to me. And then we can lock these grab screws here. That clanking noise here is from the mounting we left loose, and that's alright. Next we can replace the clutch lever, and again just tighten it up finger tight, then using the lever tighten it as much as you would normally do, and position the lever parallel to the declination axis. And now we can secure the lever with a screw. And if I turn this open, should be able to freely position the declination axis and lock it in place. And that feels good to me. And now we can move on to the driving motors.